Here's an acrylic wash project that I didn't have enough paint, and this is the Michaels brand watercolors. And I've been doing an experiment to try to get brick uneven looking color without having, you can see in this, if you look up close, that you can see my splotches. And so I'm not going to show this process because I'm not happy with it, but this is probably going to sell off this way. But in this particular wall, there's not enough color in the items, and you can see that the color got into the brickwork for the most part. And you can see the problem with this technique that I tried, and I'm calling it a failure, but once this thing is all painted up and I finish off the roof on this thing, I'm gonna have to open up the bottom. That's what the tape is for my cut lines, and then put clear in the windows, because right now there's nothing behind them. And after I get it clear coated, and you can see that I've got 2 more sides to do on this building. And once I get it all clear coated, then I'm just going to throw it on for sale at a discount price because I'm not happy with it. And again, this whole thing is a skill building. You know, my failures are somebody else's acceptable product, and you know, somebody will find it an adequate piece that'll work on their layout, and they can be happy with it and enjoy it until they can get to a point where they want to replace it or repaint it or do whatever. Okay, you guys asked for it. You want to know how I did this with a Walther's acrylics paint? I'll show you. So I got water, got the paint, and I want to make this wash consistency. Then once I get it to wash consistency, I want it to flood into the gaps. If it's the right consistency, it'll do it all on its own. If you have too much toner, it's going to fill up everything, and I'll show you how to fix that later. Always happens with hobby store acrylic paints. And there's like a art to this, because it's just like the right amount will do this easily, and the not so right amount requires working on it. And trust me, there's been a lot of failures between point A and point B. You can kind of sort of see that's what you're looking to do. This is too much toner. That's perfect. So I'm going to mess around with that. And by the way, I want these to be all dirtied up too. We'll come back to all this later. All right, got toilet paper. So once you get it all white, you want to go take a look, and you can see that we've got some splotches and some spills, and just splotches. And so we want to go back and mop all this stuff up and make sure that the color is evenly spread and that it's flowing into the cracks. We'll take the water, clean brush, tap it in the bath tissue, and then we will just continue to spread color until we get that look. That look. It's gotten all into the thing, but it's not pooled or puddled, because if you do this right, it will take very little effort to clear it all up. We're basically using the brush as a wet mop to make sure that the liquidity and the toner is all going into the grout. See, it's working right here. God, I hope this comes out. And it's not working over here. Let's see that high spot, it's just not flowing. So we take our cleanish, dryish brush and we just keep working it in until we get a nice fill and no pools and no excess toner color. There's a lot of excess toner in this area right down here, so we'll be hitting that spot up several times. And slowly picking up the excess color. And it's not going to do all of it because some of this stuff is going to have to get wiped off, but the point is that you just want it to do the least amount of work after the fact. And if you do it right, you can do it once. And believe me, it took me a while to get this, work with this. I understand it's easier to work with oils doing this, which is what I'm going to go over to on the next build that I do of this. This will be one of those learning exercises on film. I am not an expert by any stretch, but I do happen to not give a shit, so... I'm going to put the camera down. I'm going to continue to do this until I am satisfied. And the bottom of this came up pretty right on. So the bottom of this is like looking really good. I mean, it's still a little bit high right there. But one of the things I have learned is leave well enough alone as he takes the paintbrush and hits it up again. But the side is looking pretty good. It's just this top I've still got way too much color, too much toner in too many different places. So I'm going to be mopping for a little while. And when it's done, I'll give you a look. Okay, so there we have it. You can kind of get a sense of what Michael's acrylic paints looks like before I set it aside to dry. It will dry in about an hour. Sometimes I fuck around with it when it's soft. Sometimes I don't. But definitely going to set aside to dry some. It looks like dry, so now we'll get our sponges out and get to work. And we're starting with the water and cotton swab. By the way, this was only like 2 hours of sitting on the sidelines, and so you see that it looks nice. And if you're just grouting, then you can take this on to the next step and whatever that may be. In this case, it would be opening up the bottom and putting in the mullions. But right now, since I've got to go and unscrew up my undercoat, my base coat there, I'm going to start hitting this with the isopropyl and keep rubbing it until I can clean this up to a point where it looks like that. And I may have to go over this one more time. It does look like I pulled the grout out of a lot of places. So, I mean, now if I did that, happened good in some places, but yeah, I rubbed, in order to get all that, in order to clean the spot up, I had to go and get aggressive on it.
That really matters is the underside Good. If I had unlimited budget to build these vehicles, like 3 people, but I will paint this entire car perfectly. Okay, now for wiring this. Where do I even start in here? Welcome to day number 3. This.
Okay, so I got everything glued in from the bottom. Neatly tucked in. Change the color from beige, you can still see a little bit of beige in there if you look close, to gray. The side is not going to be touched except for this. This is kind of like a before and after because it's a beige and that's the gray. I should have hit that when I had the beige out, but in the little space right there in there. But I'll catch that because I'm sure I'm going to have touch-ups on this. And now we're just going to do the cotton and water trick and start wiping. Okay, I guess I'm getting proficient enough at this that I'm getting lazy with the water, so I'm going back and now I've got the isopropyl. And the spot to glue. Alright, rest of this gets done off camera. Painting, step 1. Complete the grout work and do your weathering on the windows. This is before. Step number 2. Vertical surfaces. Don't worry about these. Frontal surfaces, we'll get those in a minute. We're just doing the vertical surface, the tops of everything. Step 3. Do the front surfaces and second coat on the vertical surfaces. And on this side where it's step 4, where you're going back and you're starting to do the fill-ins where it's light. And this is just one coat. I'm going to have to go back and do this one more time, but we're pretty much done on this side. And of course, all of this is done off camera, which is time consuming, probably an hour's worth of work. Okay, we're at intermediate step here. I'm still going back and painting the decorative pieces, and some of these sides are better than the other. I think this is one of the most complete sides. I still got some work up to do up there. And you can still see I've got some work to do on these ledges here. So this must have been my phase 1 at the very beginning in the last video. Still got some touching up to do up here, along here, and all this is. Now this side is mostly complete. I have some missing spots here. I'm not going to worry about that, but this is my most complete side, I think, or the most complete long side, so the other side still needs some effort. But other than that, I think we're pretty good.